Good morning, please appear in. Accept a seat. You're all acceptable in this courtroom. My name is Adjudicator Frank Caprio. For those of you who accept been here before, you are perceived that this is more than a allowance with a bank and a gavel. This is a abode of understanding. It's a abode area we attending at the law. Yes, but we never balloon to attending at the people abaft the cases. We accept to stories. We try to acquisition not aloof a verdict, but a aisle forward. But for that to happen, for amends and benevolence to meet, there is one activity that is required from every distinct being who walks through those doors. Respect. Respect for the law, account for the process, and account for the institution that serves the people. Today we are going to allocution about a case area that fundamental assumption was not just forgotten. It was befuddled aback in the face of this cloister with an amount of arrogance that I accept hardly apparent in my decades on this bench. This is not a story about a simple cartage ticket. This is an adventure about a profound misunderstanding of how the apple works. It's an adventure that involves power, privilege, and an adolescent woman who believed her ancestor's name was a get-out-of-Bastille chargeless card. Stay with me because the final moments of this case acknowledge an accuracy about accountability that everyone, no amount who you are or who you know, needs to hear. You might think you perceive how an adventure like this ends, but I assure you the absoluteness of what happened in this actual allowance was more shocking than any fiction. The case of Cassandra Davenport. The case before us is that of Miss Cassandra Davenport, a 22-year-old resident of our state. The accused are numerous and severe. Active at a speed of 112 km per hour in a 55-mile-per-hour area on Interstate 95. Reckless driving, endangering accessible safety, failure to stop for a badge officer, and operating a motor agent with a suspended authorization for the third time in 18 months. Now, afore we alike get to the capacity of that night, November 28, 2025, aloof a few canicule ago, it's important to accept the context. Context is aggregate in this courtroom. Miss Davenport is the babe of Deputy Director Michael Davenport of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, a man who has spent added than 30 years of his activity in a claimed account to this country, administration its laws, and bringing abyss to justice. He is a man whose name is synonymous with integrity. I appetite you to ascendancy on to that fact. It's the axial absurdity of this complete affair, a detail so aciculate and so acrid that it cuts through aggregate else. The daughter of a man who represents the very acme of law and adjustment, standing in a bounded borough cloister for behavior that shows a complete contempt for it. This isn't aloof, acknowledged case. It's an ancestor's tragedy arena out under the acrid lights of a courtroom, and you're about to acquisition out that the charges themselves, as austere as they are, were not alike the best stunning part of her appearance, an access bare of respect. Back Miss Davenport's name was called, she approached the bank with an aspect that spoke volumes afore she anytime accurate a single word. While best bodies who bend actuality are nervous, humbled, or at the actual least attentive, Ms. Davenport was bored. She sauntered forward, chewing gum, her eyes flitting about the allowance as if she were waiting for a bigger affair to begin. She was on her phone, accounting a bulletin as she walked. I paused. I consistently approved to give bodies a moment to collect themselves, to accept the force of the situation. I said, "Good morning, adolescent lady, would you apperception putting your buzz away? This is a cloister of law, and your case requires your abounding attention." She looked up, a beam of acrimony in her eyes, and slid the buzz into her back pocket with an abstract sigh. She didn't say, "Yes, Your Honor." She didn't say anything. The blackout was her answer. It was a blackout abounding with disdain. "I've been accomplishing this a continued time. You learn to apprehend people. You see the fear in a mother who can't pay a fine, the shame in a man who fabricated a foolish mistake, the 18-carat anguish in a young person who has let their parents down. In Ms. Davenport, I saw none of that. I saw alone privilege, an abysmal ingrained belief that the rules that govern everyone abroad did not administer to her. But I still captivated out hope. I anticipation maybe she's aloof, accepting a bad day. Maybe the reality of the bearings hasn't sunk in yet. I was about to acquisition out aloof how amiss I was. The aerial aperture of boldness was far added than I imagined. The unveiling of a record, I best up the book in advance of me. It was almighty blubbery for a cartage case. I adapted my glasses and looked at her. Miss Davenport, I began. These are very serious charges. Active at over 110 mph is not a mistake. It's a decision that turns a 2-ton vehicle into an accidental missile. You didn't just endanger yourself. You endangered every distinct being on that highway. She rolled her eyes, a bounding, affected roll of the eyes followed by a quiet scoff. The microphone at her belvedere was sensitive. It best up the complete and amplified it throughout the courtroom. A murmur went through the gallery. People who had appeared for their own baby fines and violations, a back sat up a little straighter. They knew they were about to witness article out of the ordinary. Before I ask you for your plea, I continued, befitting my articulation even. I want to analysis your active history because your accomplished is prologue, Miss Davenport. Our choices chase us. I accessible the file. Let's see here. In the aftermost 3 years since you angry 19, you accept been issued, my goodness, 27 citations. I paused to let that cardinal bore in. That's about one for every ages you've been accurately driving. I apprehend them aloud. 14 for dispatch with 3 of those in school zones, 6 for actionable use of a mobile accessory while driving, 4 for running red lights, 2 for improper lane changes that resulted in minor accidents, and this is your 3rd charge for active with an abeyant license. The accompaniment of Rhode Island has beatific you so abounding official warnings by registered mail that your book has its own dedicated postage budget. I looked up at her, expecting, hoping for some beam of recognition, of shame. There was nothing. Her expression was flat, impatient. It was the attending of someone cat and mouse in a continued band at the DMV. Your father, I said, my voice softening slightly. Deputy Director Davenport is a man who has congenital a career on the abstraction that no one is above the law. I accept that he taught you that principle. So I accept to ask you, what do you anticipate he would say if he were continuing actuality, watching you treat this proceeding like an inconvenience? This was the moment. The moment area she could accept afflicted the entire advance of her future, a moment for humility, a moment for apology, a moment for a babe to appearance that she understood the weight of her father's legacy. She did not booty it. The mockery that closed a fate, she leaned into the microphone. A baby complacent smile played on her lips. And she said, in a voice dripping with condescension, honestly, I anticipate my ancestor would tell you to blanket this up so I can accomplish my 1 o'clock brunch catch at the Vanderbilt. The attorneys fell into a stunned silence. The absurdity became thick. I have been threatened, I accept being yelled at, I accept being cajole, but the arduous complete airs of that account was in a class all its own. She wasn't aloof disrespecting the court. She was wielding her father's name like a weapon, assuming it would grant her immunity, but she wasn't finished. As I sat there momentarily speechless, she did article that crossed a band from airs into pure mockery. She pulled out her buzz again, captivated it up, and took a selfie. She angry her head to get the bend appropriate with me and the American banderole in the background. Then, with her thumbs aflame across the screen, she acquainted online. The cloister officer, an acceptable man named Sergeant Damasi, took a footfall against her. I captivated up my duke to stop him. Miss Davenport, I said, my articulation now low and firm, bare of all its earlier warmth. What did you aloof do? She looked up from her phone, her smile widening. Just absolution my accompany no I'm actual this complete nightmare. I think I'll explanation it. Laugh in court. Lol, what do you think, Judge? Is that funny? And again she laughed. A blaze aerial laugh that echoed in the asleep bashful room. That was it. That was the moment the hammer had to fall. Not my hammer, the people's hammer, the blast of the law that she captivated in such low regard. This was no best about cartage violations. This was about an advance on the very foundations of our amends system. She had fabricated an apology of the one place where every citizen, affluent or poor, connected or unknown, is declared to stand equal. I knew absolutely what I had to do. The law is actual bright on this, and the book I was about to deliver was not one I would enjoy, but it was one I was about and accurately apprenticed to impose. It was a book she had earned, not with her car, but with her contempt. I let the words adhere in the air. "Daddy will fix it," I repeated slowly. "M. Davenport, I'm activity to explain article to you because it seems no one in your 22 years on this earth has managed to. This bench, this robe, this flag, they are not backdrop for your amusing media amusement. They are the symbols of an angelic trust. The trust that we as an association accept agreed to live by an accepted set of rules. The assurance that justice will be administered without fear or favor. Back you apish this court, you are not biting me, Frank Caprio. You are biting every being who has ever appear actuality gluttonous fairness. You are mocking every badge administrator who puts on a compatible to accomplish our laws. And yes, young lady, you are biting the very principles your own ancestor has dedicated his activity to defending. I best up my gavel. On the allegation of active with a suspended license, a third offense, the law requires a binding minimum sentence. I am giving you the maximum, 6 months probation, a $1,000 fine, and a further authorization abeyance of 2 years. A beam of agitation appeared in her eyes. Wait. On the allegation of adventuresome, driving for access, an accessible artery into your personal racetrack at 112 mph. I am Artie, the best accomplished of $500, and you will complete a binding 100 hours of association account at a trauma ward area. You can see the absolute life consequences of such behavior. Her face was pale. Now this is ridiculous. On the allegation of declining to stop for a badge officer, an act that put that officer's activity at risk, I am sentencing you to the best accustomed by statute, 30 canicule, at the adult correctional institution. She gasped. The chat Bastille had finally pierced the balloon of her privilege. 30 days? You can't do that. My father, I am not finished, I said, my articulation cutting through hers. That addresses your crimes on the road. Now we charge about your crimes in this courtroom. The law gives judges the ascendancy to advance order and address through an apparatus accepted as contempt of court. It is not an ability we use lightly. In all my years, I have used it beneath than a dozen times. But your behavior today was not a momentary lapse. It was a calculated, deliberate, and abstruse affectation of boldness for the aphorism of law. You captivated it in mockery. You laughed at it. You believed your ancestor's name fabricated you untouchable. I looked anon at her for criminal contempt of this court. I book you to an added 90 canicule at the Adult Correctional Academy to be served consecutively with your 30-day sentence. That is an absolute of 120 days. I blast the gavel. Cloister is adjourned. The lesson of the gavel as the Admiral escorted a now bald Cassandra Davenport from the courtroom. An abundant blackout remained. I want to be actual bright about what happened. My accomplishments were not built in of anger. They were built in of an abysmal and sorrowful faculty of duty. Punishment is not the goal. Compassionate is I did not sentence that adolescent woman to 4 months in Bastille to ruin her life. I sentenced her to 4 months in Bastille to save it. I did it to assure the next innocent ancestors she ability, except killed, while active at 112 mph. And I did it to accord her the one activity her privileged life has so acutely denied her, a hard consequence. Advantage is not a shield, it is a responsibility. To be accustomed, much is to be accepted of much. Her father's position did not admission her immunity. It demanded of her a college accepted of conduct, or accepted she bootless to meet in the best amazing way possible. In that Bastille corpuscle, there will be no special treatment. Her name will not matter. Her father's appellation will not accessible any doors. For 120 days, she will be aloof a number, and according amid equals. She will have time to think, Time to reflect on the fact that accurate appearance is not defined by who you know, but by what you do, and no one is there to fix it for you. My hope, my above-board adoration, is that she emerges from this acquaintance not with bitterness, but with humility, with an compassionate that account is not article you are accustomed because of your aftermost name. It is article you earn through your actions. Amends in the end is the abundant equalizer. It's a force that, back activated accurately, can cut through wealth, power, and arrogance. Sometimes the best compassionate activity a judge can do is to acquiesce the abounding weight of the law to fall. Because sometimes the alone way to save addition from drowning is to let them feel the cold, hard shock of the water. And that in this, attorneys, is a lesson we will never stop teaching.